Sermon 221 of Nahjul Balaghah reminds us that it's better to be detained, sleep-deprived, and tortured than it is to be the sort of person who shows up on the day of judgment as an oppressor. Akil had asked repeatedly for several pounds of wheat to feed his family. But he asked from a share that was not his. And it wasn't for Ali to give permission for share to be given out of another share. It was not for Ali to misappropriate one grain. It is better to give the alms, other charities, and rewards than it is to give presents. Don't be the sort of person who people are going to weep over just because of enjoyment or provision that you supplied or were part of. Even the Sunni sources confirm that Ali was a gate of wisdom. And of course, Ali was one of those individuals who was told that they could be, that they would attain to the paradise of the hereafter while they were still in this life. Others could certainly infer, but one narration has solicited 10 individuals, and it goes over everybody. And so these are the individuals that there are three parties in regards to them. Is that those who exaggerate their position are the rejectors. The rafida. The actual meaning from what the Prophet taught. That's the importance. And their enemies are going to be the kuffar, the disbelievers. And their party are going to be, the believers, Muslimin. I forget which word to use. I think there's different variations of the narration, but and that's part of why Ali stayed out of things during the second and third caliphate, because he said, well, as long as they're not violating the rights of others, I'm just going to stay out of it. My claim is out there, so when it comes time to choose again, or if Umar or Uthman or Abu Bakr wants to retire, but let us also remember that the Sunnis were not involved in this dispute. They were a later group. It's not difficult for God to create a person who will lead on a political and a religious platform. And Muhammad had called Ali the Lion of God. In the Shia tradition, they look at Karbala much the same way that Christians look at the supposed crucifixion. But in general, not the way that takes them outside of Islam. There are some people, but and just like a lion, Ali's intensity wasn't something that was cruel for being cruel. He was mild-mannered outside of whatever. Just like, I saw this thing of this guy who broke into a lion's den and tried to preach to the lions. Well, I mean, he jumped the fence at a zoo and hopped over a couple things, and the lions weren't hungry. And, well, it saved the guy's life that they weren't hungry, it looks like. But, they did absolutely nothing to the guy, until the guy started swinging things at him and stuff like that. Whether people were right or wrong, Ali was somebody that had compassion upon them and did what was right regardless of the pressures of society. And just like Prophet Muhammad before him, he set an example of generosity that made it seem like he had no attachment to the world, except as a means towards the hereafter. And Sunni narrations confirm that Ali was not one of those that there was issues with. Umar, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Aisha and Hafsa, pretty much everybody else, you can easily find reference to how they needed to be corrected. Ali wasn't so. Now, there seems to be some dispute about the age difference of Ali and Muhammad. Some put it as he was maybe 23 when Muhammad died. Some put it that he was 30. Some put it that he was and so 33 seems to be the most sound opinion of how old Ali was when Muhammad died. Muhsin was a stillbirth, but Hassan, Hussein, and Zainab and Kulthum were the children of Ali and Fatima. Him and Yamama didn't have children. Hanafiya had a son. Muhammad was his name. Ali was known as particularly forgiving. Someone who would get the people to judge, the actions to take place, not based on the weather. His son, Hussein, took part in the Battle of Siffin. During the Battle of Nahrawan, somebody was deathly afraid and defenseless, and Ali didn't kill him on those grounds. In year 30 and 40 Al-Hijra, he told people to not do as Muawiyah's group did and go raping and robbing and stuff like this. even in response to them. When they caught the murderer of Ali, he made sure the Muslimin were not cruel to him. I mean, dude was a prisoner, but, they made sure he was not cruel to them. In America, it doesn't matter what you're accused of. And honestly, extrajudicial stuff that goes on is not really based on people's offenses. I mean, sometimes they look and say, well, you're more likely to get away with it if your victim is such and such. But most of what goes on is not, connected to any sense of justice. It's just one criminal against another. Ali would not allocate state funds earlier or differently just because somebody was a friend or a family member. And he wouldn't accept invitations when people were being excluded for class reasons. And in America, you're so plagued with this sort of thing, is that people are making things about some sort of class war. And I've heard about the presidential debates, the first one, and it was like this one guy clearly would have been the person that this person supported if it wasn't for the guy being the richest dude on the stage, or the guy not making his campaign about hatred of someone else.